This afternoon's last plenary presentation is titled Using Precursor Analysis to Prevent Low-Frequency, High-Impact Events, including Fatalities. Workplace fatalities remain a persistent challenge, despite industry gains in preventing less severe injuries. Research Team 321 has developed a tool specifically for the construction industry that can lead to predicting and preventing high-impact events. Here representing the team, please welcome Gregg Slintak, Director of Safety, Industrial Hygiene, and Fire Prevention for Consolidated Edison Company of New York.
Good afternoon. Our industry has achieved some really remarkable progress on the safety front over the years. Our previous speaker, Gregg, very eloquently illustrated the precipitous improvement trend that we have seen. There's definitely a way things used to be. There's a way things are now. But unfortunately, we find ourselves in a place where perhaps we're resting a bit on our laurels. Because when we consider our performance overall in the general injury space, we have in fact plateaued. And that's clearly not where we want to be. What I'd like to discuss with you today is one way that perhaps we begin to stretch that envelope and move forward towards that next step change. And when we look at our injury experience, specifically in the fatality space, these most severe of events that fortunately occur less frequently, but still all too often, we've clearly plateaued there as well. A solid, enviable TRIR is simply not a guarantee that you're not going to be faced with losing someone on a project. And clearly where we are today as an industry, and in fact as a society, it's never acceptable to lose someone. Fatality prevention, I would suggest, is actually something more. It's not an exposure to manage. It needs to be a moral imperative. But when you consider fatality prevention in our industry, the nature of what we do is at the heart of that challenge. Projects are complex. We've got lots of different processes ongoing in parallel, lots of high-energy activities that have the capacity to take lives in an instant. So how do we know where to focus our energy? Clearly, if we had that proverbial crystal ball and we could know where the problem was going to manifest itself and get ourselves to it and stop it, that's the ideal. But can we do that? If you look out broadly into some of the other industries out there, airlines, medical, nuclear, these are folks that have managed to leverage precursor information and anticipate where they've got the lineup of events that could become problems. They recognize that and they choose a different path so they don't realize that consequence at the tail end. Can we do that here? I'm going to describe for you today a tool that we will present in much greater detail at our breakout session that you can take with you today, put into use tomorrow, and get immediate return. We began as a team 2 years ago with an essential question. Are there, in fact, precursors of high-impact, low-frequency construction events? What are they? How can we identify them? Can we analyze them? Can we, in fact, achieve predictive footing? Big questions and a lot of effort over 2 years to get us to something that I think, again, can give you immediate return. Some of the things that we recognized along the way in this process, and we had a fantastic team. It was really an honor to be part of this effort. Fatalities are a pervasive challenge. Nobody is immune, and by virtue of them being less frequent and so severe, sharing of information is not necessarily open, transparent, and data can be challenging to come by. But the data that we can bring together does reveal some interesting commonalities, and these commonalities are in fact at the heart of what we were able to produce and what you can leverage. We designed an experiment to validate a fairly extensive list of factors that we gleaned from analyzing hundreds of industry events. The experiment allowed us to actually demonstrate which of them have potential predictive capacity. It allows us to move beyond incident investigation to stretch that envelope and to start to get into the predictive space. We had our 5-stage approach, and I'm happy to say that we were successful. Successful in taking a first step that hopefully others will elect to build upon. Because as we found over the course of our research, this is a complicated issue. I don't think that there is one size, one solution that fits everything. But I think we've taken a bite out of the problem. We came up with very clear criteria on when you can apply this tool, when it is more likely to yield you a return. Because in this day and age of limited resources, it would be wonderful if we could come up with the right set of eyes with the right knowledge to put in every single one of these error-likely, event-likely scenarios and then stop things before they progress too far. Can't do that. Not practical, not achievable. But where do you want to focus your energy? We've given you some criteria to determine that within our body of work. Specifically, what is it that you're looking for? What are these factors that have that potential predictive value? There are things out there that you can actually observe directly or glean through interview of workers that you can use. How do you do that? Well, we tested these factors that we gleaned from all of these different case studies, and we've given you guidance on how to flesh them out and how to identify them and how to interpret them. And does it work? We tested this a lot. And what we found is that through application of this tool, we achieved 85% success in taking folks who could predict the outcome of an event given only base information that leads them to what's happening right up until the moment of something potentially going wrong. Who can do this? Now, I'm a safety geek. I'm kind of proud to say that, frankly. I've been doing this stuff for more than 20 years. I enjoy putting my eyes out there and spotting something that maybe somebody else has missed, and hopefully giving them that opportunity to get home at the end of the day. But the beauty of this is the simplicity. You don't need to be a safety professional to use this tool. We tested it with folks that are non-safety professionals. We tested it with folks who were just students with the barest of experience. And we had success across all of those rounds of testing. And we'll describe that for you in the breakout. The tool is very simple, 3 component parts. We give you an investigation form that lays out the criteria. What are you looking for, and how do you identify these factors? A guidance document to make it very clear how you interpret that information. And then, frankly, at the tail end of this, what does it boil down to? A score sheet. A score sheet that's built on an algorithm that, depending on the weight of the factors that you identify, it's going to give you a quantitative result that'll give you an indication of when you've got elevated potential for a high-impact event, when you want to take a knee and step back and maybe rethink what you're going to do before you send people down the road. We made it real simple. But I want to manage expectations for a moment here as well. This is not a magic checklist. This is not something that is going to make fatalities go away for us anytime soon. But it's a big step. It's something that others can build on, but it's something that is meant to complement the strong programs and practices that we as an industry are using today. So don't look at this as a supplemental mechanism that will get you there all on its own. It augments, it focuses, it adds value. We have to make a decision as a group, and I think we have a lot of influence as a group. We can either stay in a space where we're chasing a flattened out trend, or we can literally try to get out in front and leverage information in a way that we haven't before. That's what makes this groundbreaking, and I don't use that term lightly. And if I can leave you with one thought that hopefully gets you to stay in your seats at the end of this for our breakout session, which is in this room. Over the course of our 2-year project, 2 team members, myself being one of them, our organizations experienced high-severity events. In one case, we had a fatality on a project. And in my own particular case, we had an individual broke his neck when he took a 15-foot fall from an elevated platform. Retrospectively, we applied this tool to both of those incidents. That quantitative threshold that I mentioned before, that take a knee point, we blew past that like a country mile. Wasn't even close. If we'd had this tool in place, mature and used, we wouldn't have proceeded with those jobs. And those are 2 lives that wouldn't have been changed. One of them irreparably, and in our own particular case with our employee, an individual who's still convalescing and working very hard to regain all of his basic motor functions that he had up until that event. So I thank you in advance for your time, for your participation, and I truly hope that you'll stay planted in your seats and join us for our implementation session, where we will give you an opportunity to try out the mechanism. Thank you.